Hi, this is Rev Ed with today's Back Porch Devotional from Psalm 127. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go to bed late, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. Solomon is credited as being the author of this psalm, and there is deep, deep wisdom in these short verses. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. You know, so often when we're making our plans for our life or even just for the day, what we do is we make our plans, and then if we think about it, we ask God to bless what we have already chosen to do. But Solomon points out that unless the Lord is involved in the design process, unless the Lord is in on the ground floor, as it were, then everything that you or I are building is totally in vain. It will not stand, it will not last, it will not have any meaning or value, and it will not ultimately give us any fulfillment. You remember Solomon's words in the book of Ecclesiastes, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It's nothing but ceaseless toil and a striving after the wind. He knew what he was talking about. Solomon did all kinds of amazing things, but ultimately, even his own life reflected that he had not built everything by way of trusting the Lord. He wandered from God's plan, and his heritage was not as good as it could have been. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stay awake in vain. Everything has to be consecrated to the Lord, and everything has to be brought under his jurisdiction in order for any of our plans to have any hope of succeeding. And we have to stop and consider that the definition of success in the kingdom of heaven is different than in the kingdom of this world. But whatever it is, we have to remember that unless things are done for the Lord and through the Lord, they will not endure, and they will have no lasting value. And it is all a striving after the wind. It's in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest. Rest and sleep are gifts from God for those that he loves. But if we are doing things in our own strength, then we're going to be anxious. We are going to be nervous. We are going to be worried all the time about our plans not coming to fruition. It's only when we seek the Lord's will before we make decisions and before we carry out any plans of our own that we have any hope of building lives that are meaningful. And then this transition appears in the middle of the psalm. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. This feels like a gear shift change. What are we talking about now? Is this something different from building the house? No, it's actually the very same thing. Because children are indeed a blessing from the Lord, and how we raise them is one of the ways that our house, our heritage, is built. You know, it has become common in this era, when the world is in such a chaotic state, for people to say, I just don't think it's right to bring children into such a terrible world. And you know, if you don't feel like you are equipped to raise children, then you shouldn't have them. And you shouldn't be engaging in behaviors that'll produce children. But children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Not everybody can have children, although there are more ways to have children than just by giving birth. We can be spiritual mothers and fathers to those around us. And what we have to understand is that well-raised and well-trained young people are like arrows in the hand of a warrior. If the arrows are bent or twisted or made out of poor wood, not designed properly, the point not sharpened, they will not aim true or hit their mark. What we have to do is raise up people who are focused on the Lord and his plans and his goodness and his grace. We have to raise up children in the way that they should go, as it is written in the book of Proverbs, in order for the heritage, for our house to be properly built. What we have to understand is that the reformation of the world begins at home. And when we have homes and families that are devoted to the Lord and to his work and to his word and to his will, then like well-aimed arrows, our children will be launched into the world to accomplish the purposes for which God has sent them. And unless we build our house, build our home, build our families with the Lord at the center of it, then every last bit of it is in vain. Jesus basically said the same thing at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. He said, everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. We can build our lives on the rock. We can let the Lord build the house, or we can do it some other way and watch it all crumble into nothingness and meaninglessness. It is only when our lives are centered on Jesus Christ and his word that the house gets built and that the house stands, and that our children, in whatever form they are, get launched into the world in a way that glorifies God and that does good for those around them. Build your house upon the rock of Jesus Christ. Let the Lord build your house. Let the Lord shape the heritage of your home and your family. And then you can trust that all will be well and that God will be glorified and your good will be lifted up in him. God's blessings be upon you this day.